Okay, everybody's seated. That's absolutely marvellous. Now, as I mentioned before, this is very much your segment here, where if anybody's got any questions you'd like to ask of any one of these people, or just ask a question generally, put your hand up now, and we've got a couple of roving people out there with microphones that will come round to you and hand you a mic. Okay. Yeah, very important when you ask the question, don't make a speech. We're not looking so much for an opinion or an editorial, but if you could just ask a question, please. Okay, Russell.
I'm interested to know if the council does curbside recycling, what are you going to do with that waste? Because I do not want to see it sitting in a warehouse. I do not want it shipped to Malaysia. Unless it's going to be used here in a business proposition, there's no point.
Who would like to answer that question? Okay, Rob.
Thank you. Well, firstly, there isn't a proposal for curbside collection at this point in time. The economics at this point in time are not that great. You know, there's 6 councils at the moment stopped their curbside collection. Others are bailing out their contractors. So over the next 3 years, it's very unlikely that curbside recycling will start in any manner at all in Wanganui. But that doesn't mean to say that it's not desirable, because it does double the amount of recycling product that's collected. Now, what would happen in Wanganui, most likely, it would be contracted, and it would go over to Palmerston North and be sorted over there, and use the outlets that are currently being used through the likes of OG for cardboard, through the likes of bucket plastics being remade into rubbish bags and other infrastructure. And that's where it would go from Wanganui if curbside happened. That's where it's going now from the Resource Recovery Centre.
You did well. I'd like to just remind the people who answer the question, if you could kind of restrict it to about 60 seconds. We'll ding the bell after 60, okay? Right, this lady down here in the red t-shirt.
Kia ora koutou. The living wage is a rate calculated to enable a worker to afford to pay the basics and participate in society. And so I'd like to invite Alan Taylor, please, to answer the question whether, if he remains on council, he would support council paying its workers the living wage.
Thank you for the question. Until the Local Government Act was changed this year, the core functions of council pretty much stipulated that that was the kind of activity that councils should not necessarily get involved in. At least it didn't say, this is the kind of thing you need to deal with, or you should. So I was nervous about it being a matter with the district council should be involved in. However, the Local Government Act has changed, and the 4 well-beings now give us direction to consider the living wage. I've taken a look at evidence provided to me that suggests that it's nothing there to be feared, that in fact it can lead to greater productivity if we pay our people a better wage at the bottom end. There is less absenteeism, and overall, obviously, there's better output. So, as a councillor, I'd certainly be prepared to consider it again. Thank you.
We've also had questions that have been emailed into us as well. We'll come to you in just a moment, but I can just ask this one first. And it's a show of hands, this one, from the candidates on the stage, and it concerns climate crisis. Are there any candidates who disagree with the council's decision to declare a climate crisis? A show of hands.
That's not the word they use.
No. The council has declared a climate crisis.
No.
No?
It's not. It's intended.
That's what, well, similar wording, but a climate crisis. No. Okay, this is what this person's written in. Is there anyone that disagrees then with the terminology climate crisis? Can I pick one of these people here to explain why?
Climate changes. It has done for thousands and thousands of years. It is accelerating at the moment. If you look at records, it's been accelerating since about the 1600s, which was when the world came out of a mini ice age. So what are you comparing the crisis to? 1,000 years ago, when it was hotter, and then it cooled down, and now it's warming up again. Wanganui is affected by it because it's on a floodplain. Floodplains flood. What can we do about it? Not a great deal. There is talk of EV vehicles, electric vehicles. I did a quick calculation. If the council changes 40 of their electric vehicles, current vehicles to electric, we will make approximately 0.0000014% change to the world's climate output.
Point taken. Okay, there was a lady up here who had your hand up.
Yeah,
You still want to ask the question?
thank you. Yes, mine's also to do with climate change. I'm absolutely shocked that only 2 of you mentioned climate change is it not on your agendas? I mean, it should be.
I think you might have misunderstood. The question was who didn't agree.
That's not what I'm talking about. My question is it not on your agenda? Climate change. It's happening.
So, without making a statement, would you like to phrase a question then?
So my question is, who of you, or who wants to, who of you wants to deal with the climate change within council, you know?
Yes.
Thank you. I should have mentioned that.
Further questions? Down the front here with Lee.
Yeah, Lee Grant from the Regional Velodrome Development Trust. Got a question for Ross Fallon. As you all know, this multi-purpose event centre has a potential economic benefit, as Philip has said, around $114 to $112 million over a 10-year period, with a payback of the initial build costs within 2.5 years. Now, ratepayers will not be required to contribute to any further operating costs apart from the initial funding contribution. The event centre will be run by an independent trust as per the successful Cambridge event. The questions are, what are your views on this project and the huge benefit to our region, and do you support this important project? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. That's a good one. The velodrome is a very, very thought-provoking issue. I support it. I publicly said that. It's in my writing. So long as the project is viable and the information that I have received from various members of that trust and the information that I'm putting forward and from Sports New Zealand, the Provincial Fund and so on, is that it has the potential to be an income stream for our town. So I'm hesitant to say that we should support it if it runs at a loss. What I'm saying is, when all the figures come in that you've mentioned, when the books come in, because there's one more round to go, absolutely we should. But if we say no, there's only one result left. We rip the track up, and that really ticks me off.
Okay, we have a lady down here in the front row. Second front row.
Thank you. Firstly, I would just like to say that as a new person to Wanganui, I've only been here 9
9 months, this has been very instructional to be able to listen to everybody, because otherwise I would not have had a clue. My question is, and I have been on and noted that there are a number of apologies to meetings. It concerns me a little that all of these are very, very busy people, and there are quite a number of you who are standing for both council and the district health board. I would like to know how you are going to prioritise when there is a clash of meetings, and will you, as our representatives, be putting council first? And I think I would like to ask Mary.
Kia ora. Thank you for that question. Yes, I am standing for both council and the district health board. Why? Because I believe that those two organisations need to work a lot closer together. I believe that both have the health and well-being of Wanganui at their very core. I have been fortunate to be able to work alongside the DHB over the last 5 years, so I have had a lot of insight into the decisions that are being made. If we have clashing meetings, as we have had in the past, why can we not shift meetings? Both work on the, I think I'm correct in saying that both work on a cycle. So if the council has already determined what their cycle is on meetings, then the district health board should be looking at that to make sure that there are no clashes so that people can be attending both. But I'm really, really clear that I think that both of these organisations should be working together. Heal the people, heal the land, heal the people. Make it work.
Just like to get Philippa Baker Hogan to also answer the question, which probably diverse just a little bit there, was how would you prioritise and fit both jobs in, correct?
Thank you, and a very good question. I thought it might be good for me to answer because I've been on the council 13 years and the district health board 15 actually. So I have working practice of dealing with that. For a number of years, probably in brief, and I guess I will have had the odd wobble, but I probably had overall one of the best attendances on both of those bodies, and I've raised a family, you know, over all those years, and they've only, well, one of them's still at school. So the council, they do work together, particularly in probably the last 10 years, to ensure meetings as little as possible clash, so I think that's really important. And yeah, I guess the thing is, you know, if you want a job done, give it to a busy person. So I also, like Mary, I've really considered every time, not standing for both, but, you know, a hospital, a tertiary institution, an airport, those things I think are critical to a city. It's our largest employer and we need to work together, so thank you.
Thank you very much. More questions? Somebody right up the back there over the far side. Would like to run the microphone over there.
Good evening. You mentioned today quite a few bridges, but you never mentioned the Aramo Bridge. Now, the Aramo Bridge is a well-used bridge, and even if you don't fix the railway lines on it, why don't you fix the footpath?
Would somebody like to answer that question? Helen?
Yeah, it's a really good question and it worries me. So you've got the railway bridge, that's the one you're talking about, isn't it? Yeah, it's got the walkway, cycleway on it. It's NZTA refused to fund it. And I'm really, really annoyed about that. Again, it goes back to the para. They're underfunded, the government have got other priorities, and we're being shortchanged. And we have to get active and we have to start stirring up and say, you have to fix this. It is not Wanganui Ratepayers' responsibility. I think the railway bridges may be 50-50 shared in cost with council, but they won't come on board. We've asked and they said no. So we have got to all get very angry and active in demanding some service out of our government and NZTA and get these things fixed. Thank you.
A question here that is a contentious one. been emailed into us, and I hope it is correct, I'm just reading it as it was sent in. The Sargent Art Gallery rebuild. 12 million has been pledged by government out of the Provincial Growth Fund. 5 million by the Whanganui District Council, and an undisclosed amount in donations and fundraising, although I believe Josh mentioned about 20.
That's the total pool of government funding.
28.
28.
Okay. There is speculation going around that the final cost could be somewhere in the vicinity of around $50 million. If there is a shortfall, are you in favour of council borrowing to fund it? And they want to see a show of hands. There's three here. Who's in favour of borrowing? Who is against borrowing? And who wishes to abstain? I know. Well, perhaps abstain. And we understand there's a bigger picture. So, hand up. Who is in favour of borrowing any shortfall in funding to rebuild the Sargent Gallery? Okay. Who is against borrowing any further or placing the council in any further debt to fund the Sargent Art Gallery? And who wishes to abstain, bearing in mind that...
I've got enough information. Okay, so I just don't think it's a fair vote.
Well, the question... Yeah, okay, fair enough. Okay.
So the total pool, that's much louder than I expected. the total pool of funding that we've received from central government has been $28 million. So that's $6 million from the Department of Internal Affairs. That's $10 million from the Ministry of Arts, Culture and Heritage. And that's a further $12 million from the Provincial Growth Fund. Now, when that $10 million was allocated from the Ministry of Arts, Culture and Heritage, a condition of getting that funding requested by the Minister of Conservation herself was that council agrees to underwrite any shortfall. Now, we had to pass a recommendation to do that, otherwise we would not have unlocked that funding. So the reason that I raised my hand is that council has already passed a recommendation to underwrite the shortfall. However, the fundraising continues because we've still got 2 years until the project is likely to be finished. We have money in the bank that's accumulating about 400k in interest every year. So the hope and aim of the council at this point is that no additional funding is required from the ratepayer. But the reality is, if we didn't pass that recommendation, we would not have unlocked that $28 million of central government funding. Thanks.
Okay, further questions? Oh, sorry. Right there. Missed you out.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Heather. I have a question for Councillor Vincent. Where are you, Rob? Rob, over the years, you've often talked about paying down debt. Would you please, with the debt now over pretty much over $100 million, the long-term debt, would you name, please, the banks, the trusts, the pension funds, who own this debt either directly or through the local government funding agency? Thank you.
Well, I'm not familiar who the local government agency goes to for their funding. I know that the council goes to the ANZ Bank for any particular funding. But I believe that the Wanganui District Council is paying the debt off too quickly. There's no sense in paying the debt off quickly. Because what that's doing is cutting out the intergenerational equity. Why should the wastewater treatment plant that'll last for 50 years be paid off in 25? At the moment, if we didn't borrow anything tomorrow, not one more dollar, the Wanganui District Council at the current rate of repayment would be debt-free in 14.9 years. That's far too soon. And this is what affects your rates. It's the repayment that affects your rates, not the borrowing of initially. Well, there isn't. The important thing is that there's a debt program and repayment program in place. What I'm saying is at the moment, I believe that's putting too much pressure on the current ratepayers by paying it off too quickly. But there's a variation of opinion about that. I accept that around the council table, but this is something that I'm arguing.
Thank you. Question from the floor? Gentleman down here I saw first. Yep.
How would you address the problem of traffic congestion in Wanganui, having particular regard to traffic lights and the Dublin Street Bridge?
Who would like to answer that?
Yeah, go to Auckland.
The question was, how do you propose to fix it, particularly the Dublin Street Bridge? Right? There's no one what to answer that.
The best thing that you can do is to take public transportation, ride a bike, or to walk places. So I think our council should be working to encourage our ratepayers to do those things rather than fixing problems for people who feel they should drive their own individual cars everywhere.
Here's a question that was sent in, I won't tell you who by, but it says, what is your understanding of the New Zealand legislation which has given legal personhood status to the Whanganui River? As this legislation impacts significantly on council business, what work have you done to get a clear understanding of its implications? Would anybody like to comment on that?
I think if you look at the entity part of it, initially there is understanding between council and the local levy, but the government has given the river as an entity, so that means river itself becomes a body. The question is, who's going to look after it? The question is, are we going to sue the river if the flood comes in? Because there's an entity. So there are a lot of other questions that has to be asked, and there should be a lot of answers coming in regarding this term entity.
Thank you. Another question from the emails. Do any candidates have a solution to our high dumping of rubbish costs at the transfer station and rubbish pickup costs? Does anybody have any solutions to those costs? Does any candidate have a solution or recommendation to our high dumping of rubbish costs at the transfer station and rubbish pickup costs? And they go on to say that this has resulted in a lot of fly dumping or illegal dumping, which is an eyesore.
Competition. Waste Management provides most of the transfer for us. They own both of our transfer stations, and they have their truck with a lot of 2 other trucks chugging around picking up our rubbish. So what we have to do is we have to be more inventive. We have to try and create the situation of competition so that they don't hold us at ransom for what we have to pay. We've got a really good resource recovery centre. Perhaps we start looking at can that do extra work there. We can also look at going into private-public partnerships to create that competition.
Question from the floor? This lady down here had a hand up before.
Yes, my name's Margaret. I don't know, I've only heard one person tonight that's mentioned the word farming. This is a district council that you're all going to represent, and I'm really curious to know what you're going to do to support the rural people who pay a huge amount of the rates for this community. I'll just leave that open up. Anybody can answer it, but I don't feel confident at the moment.
Who would like to answer that?
I'll give it a go, Margaret. It's a big issue, and I'm going to answer it from the plank of economic development. So, as part of the economic development strategy, there is going to be quite
a lot of focus and push around helping develop farming, especially in the horticulture area. Will that do? Yeah, it's a hard issue. I mean, yeah, roading, forestry. We've had lots of conversations about how we can take the burden off farmers, especially where there's forestry damage.
Okay, questions? It's a lady up there in blue top, black top. Yep.
I've got a two-phase question. First, I just wanted to see a show of hands from the councillor that thought there was, or believed that there could be a freedom camping issue in Wanganui.
So a show of hands if you think there is an issue.
Yes. Okay. And so from those people, hang on, I've got to open my phone again. Matt, did you put your hand up? I can't see where that is. No, did Brent? Did you put your hand up, Brent? So Brent and Helen, the reason I wanted to see if you guys put your hand up was that you both mentioned tourism in Wanganui and bringing more tourism to Wanganui. So I wanted to know what you guys had to think about what you could do to change the issues of freedom camping.
Let's take, for example, the new toilet block and that built down on Anzac Parade by the Monty Club sport rooms. I'm all for that to a point. I believe if you're going to come for a night or two, then passing through, by all means, because they're going to buy petrol, food, money's going to get put into the community that way. But I've seen some camper vans there that's been there for a month plus, which is taking money out of our motels and our holiday camps. Whether if we're going to have freedom camping, maybe we stipulate some rules around it. 1 or 2 days, yep, no problem. 1 or 2 months, yeah, it's a bit of an issue.
Can I just talk to that for a second too? We're about to be run over by a tourism wave that's coming at us. I don't think we're ready for it in this town. We're not used to it. We've not seen tourists before. And the numbers that are coming. Freedom Camp is a part of a national sort of circuit that they're on. We need to deal with it. There's no doubt about it, because it's a problem all around the place. But right here in Wanganui right now, we've got tourism about to swamp us, and we're not really ready. We haven't got facilities, we haven't got toilet facilities and places that are strategic place. One of the things that this council's going to have to deal with really quickly.
Sorry, can I just say one thing with that? You say that we've got so many tourists coming and we don't have the infrastructure there.
Yeah.
You've got 3 holiday parks in Wanganui that would never say that they have been full. But yet you've opened the toilet block to cater for all these extra people.
Oh, I don't understand the question. Can you just ask it again?
It's not really a question, it's just you're saying.
Okay, there's a gentleman just down here who wants to ask a question.
Tonight I've heard a lot about what you're going to do, but the council has a budget of 70 million plus, and you have increased the staff from 205 to 230. There seems to be a tendency to expand the bureaucracy rather than look on efficiency in the council. Who is standing tonight to dwindle the numbers down to be more efficient council?
Right. Who hasn't given an answer yet? Jenny hasn't over the back.
Thank you. I don't think that there's anything wrong with the numbers. And you might think that that's inappropriate. However, it's just a number of staff. It does not give any indication whatsoever whether they're funded externally. So we have a few staff who have contracts that are funded by central government, but their salary and their number is still included in that. We have situations where we have contractors who charge at a significantly increased rate, and we take people off contract and we put them onto the staff. That's a reduction overall in council cost, but it appears in one line item as an increase in cost and an increase in numbers.
So we can't take one line item out of an entire budget, a budget of that size, and say that number in isolation is wrong. You have to look at it in context of what do you take off against it? What revenues are you getting towards that? So I absolutely, totally disagree with the premise that the numbers have grown and that growth is inappropriate, because I know that our CEO has been busting his gut to get things right.
I think Joe just wants to have a comment on that as well.
As an ex-council employee, I want to say that every election year you bang on how many people are employed there. Now, they're one of the most hardest working people. They're having trouble retaining staff and they're having trouble recruiting staff at the moment. You would not know, but our planning department, which is crucial for our growth, has a limited amount of consent planners and no policy planners. So if you don't have policy planners, you can't progress your district plan. And why have they left? They've left for better jobs and better areas for more money. You start attacking that budget and you're going to end up with a third world council. They work hard, they produce and honestly are prepared to work for the community. And when there's an emergency here, I can tell you that place is 24/7 and they're not getting paid and they're doing the best for everybody. Stop banging it.
Come back to the floor in just a moment. Just one question from the emails. Economic Development Agency Whanganui and Partners sponsor local events such as the recent runway event at the airport and last month's Whanganui District Health Board's Health Awards. While support of worthwhile local events is always welcome, Whanganui and Partners' main aim is attracting businesses and tourists from outside Wanganui. So is this a proper use of ratepayers' money? Would someone like to comment? Do you understand the question? Is it a proper use of ratepayers' money funding those other events like the Run the Runway and the District Health Board health boards? Would somebody like to comment? Who hasn't answered a question yet? Okay.
Look, I think Wanganui Partners are doing a great job, and the danger when you're doing a great job is that it becomes the solution for everything. It's like, Wanganui Partners are doing a great job, okay, let's get them to collect the recycling, No, they need to stay focused on what they're doing. Now, as far as the specific question, bringing people to Wanganui also means making Wanganui attractive. It means things like the Heritage Weekend, and uplifting our zen, our vibe. Now, Wanganui Partners have a role to do with that. But we have to, as council, we have to make sure that Whanganui Partners is focused on that. Whanganui Partners in many ways is the sexy side of this. Council, we have to actually have the humility and the ability to actually sit down and say, we're here to be boring. We have Whanganui Partners to be the rock stars of this. We're there to support them. Let's not try and grab the stage, and let's not get our rock stars out with the cleaning buckets. That's our job.
Okay, I think we'll just have a couple more questions and then we might look at winding it up for the night. Just a reminder that afterwards all the councillors will be out in the foyer and you'll be able to approach them one-on-one and ask them questions direct if you so wish. Okay, right up the back there, Russell.
Yes, I live new in Wanganui. I've only been here for 2 years. And my first comment when we actually stayed here for a while was, this is such a friendly town. I then got quite a shock when I saw the talk about refugees coming here and realised that the people of Wanganui are so opposed to refugees and say, we haven't got anything here for us. Do you know what these refugees have got where they are? They've got nothing.
So what is the question?
The question is which people are opposed to it. I'm being told that people are opposed to it. I'm in favour of it. I've got next door neighbours who are refugees, all right?
We'll take two answers here, okay? All right.
Hi there. Right, just a couple of months ago, Mr. Barron and I had a little problem outside the district council. I've got no problems with refugees coming here, but when they take homes of our own kids, families and that, I have a problem. Now those homes that were built, they've been filled up now, so refugees will be coming here next year in March. So they talk about 20 families or whatever. As long as our homes are there and our own people have built, housed and had their jobs, I don't have a problem, okay? I'm not racist, but the thing is, I want to see our own people, birth certificates there, born in New Zealand, put it on those homes first.
Alan would like to make a comment.
Yeah, Reward and I are totally opposite, as you know. We did do a homie on the front page of the Chronicle to keep the peace at that stage. I'm going to make it very short and simple. Refugees come from countries, from dire situations. They have no choice which country they're going to. They have no choice in which town they're going to. And they probably have language problems and cultural issues to deal with as well. Since the 1960s, under the UNHCR Accord, over 50 years, we have taken refugees into our large cities. It's simply our turn. If you don't want the refugees, tell the central government to change their refugee quota, because all we're doing is it's our turn to shoulder what we have been doing for half a century in larger cities. And I finish on this. Immigration New Zealand, and I contacted them directly, said if they cannot obtain housing here, then they don't come. And they will have to go somewhere. We have never experienced refugees in Wanganui. What a golden, golden opportunity to meet so many people from so many other cultures. Welcome them to Wanganui and support them. Yes, there's a housing crisis. They are not taking houses for our people. They are our people. From the moment they arrive, they are New Zealand residents. They are us.
Okay, who would like to be lucky last? I saw this lady here, hand go up first. Yes, sorry. Yep.
Good evening. I'm new to the city, I'm not a refugee, but I am new to the city, and I would like to know clarification of the pronunciation of the city, because I've heard a huge variety of pronunciation. I expect that our councillors will all pronounce the name correctly, so please can I have clarification?
Who would like to answer that? Well, what is the question actually? Are you asking for the correct pronunciation? So is there anybody here who has the... Perhaps we should ask a local Maori.
Kia ora. WH means pa. Whanganui, a bay on the river. Nui means... Right. Whanganui, look, I've got no problem with H, but it's been around for elected 10 years ago, and thing is, people need to get over it, and you know, it's... What? Oh, Wanganui.
Good question, and I will respond this way. If I use my Tūkarato tongue, it will be Whanganui. If I use my Wanganui tongue, if I use my Ngārauru tongue, it will be Wanganui.
So there we have it. I hope you have enjoyed this evening's presentation, meet the candidates. I certainly have. It's been entertaining and inspirational and informative. It's been very good, and I hope you got as much out of it as we have as well. So on behalf of the Ratepayers Association and Great Power, thank you very much for coming. The big winner here tonight is democracy. That's what it's all about.